the more acne you have, the more you're trying to cover them up. And so you easily turn to these kind of like heavy, long wear foundations that really sit very tightly on the skin and can cause so much occlusion and actually even more acne. For some people, easy test can be, for example, if you notice that your skin gets drier or even oilier with the foundation, with the makeup that you have, than without it, this is a indicator of a problem that this product is not working for you. It means it's in some way irritating your skin. So
hello and welcome to the PCOS Oracle podcast, Sarah. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join me on today's episode. I'm honestly really excited to delve into our podcast interview, which is all about skin health and skincare. Global skincare is $1 billion industry, and honestly, skincare has always been this great area for me, as I'm sure for many people and even our listeners. There's just so many products, and you often fall into the marketing of them, like many of the other industries like fitness and supplements, weight loss. But there's just so much amazing content that we're going to be covering in this interview, in this episode, so I'm really looking forward to it. But before we get into our interview, can you please share with our listeners your journey and how you help people improve their skin?
thank you so much for having me. So I actually was an acne sufferer myself for many years, and I always kind of consider myself to be healthy. I grew up, cooking food from scratch. My family was always healthy. I was always a very active child. But then, as you become a bit older teenager, there starts, birth control pills, then the stress of picking, which college to go to. And usually this is where a lot of problems start to accumulate for many people, and including myself. So this is where kind of like my cystic acne really started, and it wasn't that bad in the beginning, but then as I went more and more into different acne actives, I started to use more and more products, which over time destroyed my skin barrier, which kind of looks like this really angry, inflamed, dry, but oily, kind of like dehydrated by oily skin that is very sensitive and reactive to lots of different products. And this is actually a scenario that I see with lots of my clients as well, because you are tempted to do more and more and more, but then we're never really educated on the importance of healthy skin, which basically is kind of like that skin barrier. We can go into that a bit later. But basically, my skin did not tolerate anything anymore. It was angry no matter what I did. And I went to, many dermatologists. I went through a course of antibiotics, like all these different topical treatments, and no results really lasted past like 1 month or two after the actual treatment. And in the end, since I've gotten my degree in molecular biology, I actually started to work as a scientist, which I will then continue for some years until I finally dedicated myself to healthy skin glows. I started to learn about skin barrier directly from the research and from dermatology sites, instead of just blindly listening to actually the message that has been relayed from skincare industry itself, which is kind of like more and more products, more and more actives, and just focusing or over-focusing on different benefits of products and just ignoring the healthy skin barrier and ignoring the fact that skin is an active live organ, right? And so I really at some point just almost stopped doing any skincare. I did my best to just let my skin heal, and this resulted in massive progress. I was really able to heal majority of my acne, and the last of my acne was healed through some final kind of dietary changes. I was aware of how birth control affected me. I tried to heal myself after. And so this kind of completed my picture, my acne healing. And it's what I try to do today with my clients, as I see this story all over again in so many other people. So I feel like I can kind of relay some helpful information to them.
That's amazing. And I feel like what you pointed out, how the skin obviously is an organ, and I feel like we kind of forget that it is, and then we just think it's just something that we just have to slather things on to take care of it. But when it comes to any organ, like the liver or your heart, you have to do things to support it, to make it stronger, to make it more, take care of it. So doing things, looking at it as it's an organ, and you need to do stuff from the root cause, from lifestyle, diet stuff, to take care of it, and not just think I have to buy this product. But I'm sure there's products that we will discuss that can be used in a skincare routine, but we can like delve into that later. But yeah, I think that's really amazing, and to know that you had this whole journey of like improving your acne and your skin and learning all this is amazing. I'm sure our listeners can relate. So as this is like a PCOS kind of podcast and I talk about PCOS, let's kind of touch on this kind of topic of like what is driving the acne, because obviously acne and hair loss and all this kind of stuff is a symptom. It's not like it's not something that we should be like focusing on, but what is the driver of skin issues?
Yes, so we often hear term hormonal acne, right? And it will often come out on the chin, but even though with my clients I don't really exactly see, specifically, because people will say, oh, how do I treat PCOS acne? How do I treat hormonal acne? How do I treat this different type of acne? And they can come out as different ways. But in the end, these hormones are, why are they imbalanced? So like, it's not just to say, okay, we have imbalance in progesterone, or we are having difficulty detoxifying estrogen, or we are having high testosterone, which is something very common for PCOS. So we have to ask ourselves, like, why? Is it kind of like a poor regulation of blood sugar? Is it insulin sensitivity problem? And these all things will impact the skin because certain hormones work directly on the skin, such as a group of androgen hormones. Let's just say testosterone. There are a few different kinds that will work on the skin, some more potent than others, and then they will increase. So firstly, they will increase sebum production. And the more sebum we have, which is something that I think people intuitively know, like the oilier your skin is, the more sebum you have, the more acne you have. And we know this with pretty good certainty that these two things are correlated, because sebum, the more you have it, the more of it can get oxidized just by being exposed to the environment. And when it's oxidized, it's actually pore clogging. It kind of gains certain pore clogging ability. And once the pore is clogged, it starts to accumulate more and more of that sebum. Dead skin cells are not kind of like easily falling off our skin in a natural exfoliation process. Instead, they're clogging up the pores, and you are starting to get these little comedones that ultimately, graduate into inflamed, painful red acne. And so this is kind of like usually the trajectory. Actually, I think IGF-1 can also directly influence the skin, but again, through insulin, through blood sugar, regulation, these things will not often reflect on our skin. Another hormone that can also work directly is leptin. This can increase inflammation in the skin. So acne, as long, with other also different skin diseases or conditions, they are inflammatory at the core. So I would say maybe, especially with PCOS, the high androgens, which is a symptom basically, is something that is like maybe common, or like this insulin sensitivity is oftentimes a problem, or like at the core of the issue. And this will generally result in more acne through these mechanisms of like increase either sebum production in the skin, or also messing up with a certain process called keratinization process. So basically kind of like impacting those last maturation stages of skin cells, and how quickly they are falling off our skin, and how actually much they bind to each other instead of falling off when their time is come to fall off our skin. And so this all results in that first stage of acne, which is a clogged pore. And there are different ways to impact this clogging topically, but if these internal stressors and triggers are very powerful, which they are in most people, especially with PCOS, it can be very difficult to do this with just topical skincare alone. So it's very important to kind of like work on both sides, which I'm sure with PCOS and your understanding of PCOS.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely something that we need to be addressing. Obviously, I feel like the big focus is internally, but also there's going to be like a percentage where you have to help it topically. But yeah, like there is just so much potential drivers of like PCOS causes. Like I feel like even like poor gut health can be a driver for acne and breakouts. So
absolutely,
yeah, like supporting the gut health and like the detoxification of estrogen to like removing it. So it's just like a lot of stuff that we obviously have to delve into to figure out like what is specifically the driver. But I find that it's all super interesting. Like what you've been saying, I was like, wow, because I'm not one for I don't really know much about skin health. It's not really my forte. It's never been something I've like spent time looking into. I've never been someone who like growing up buys like brand products and like ever uses this kind of stuff. So it's only like recently I've been like, oh, I need to pay more attention to my skin. Like growing up, you're getting old, and then like I recently done one of those. I don't know what the name is, but like you put your face in this thing and it like really like looks deep within like your skin health, and it just like looks at things. And I was like, oh, I need to like start making a few changes, like maybe a few topical natural stuff like to help it. But my focus was always making sure my diet was really healthy. I was getting my nutrients in. But yeah, we were like,
no, but you feel like you have really great skin. I mean, I also hope that people can understand by, you know, following me on Instagram or reading, you know, my blog post, is that applying topical skincare is not the exactly same thing as skincare, because for some people, doing almost nothing will actually support their skin the most. For some other people, for example, if somebody lives in a highly polluted environment, they maybe need some extra care topically to ensure the skin is not getting congested. So even if you eat a perfect diet and you sleep well and all that, like if you do live in such an environment that is like triggering for the skin, you may need some more support topically. But definitely I would say when people say, oh, it's like we should start early taking care of your skin. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, do you mean applying products, or really just realizing what your needs are at each point? So like I always say also, don't fix something that's not broken. So like don't go in with really strong retinoids if you are very young. Like if you don't, like actually take more care of your skin barrier than, you know, going with something that can maybe cause you more irritation than bring benefit. So like it's very, we have to always evaluate for each individual situation what is the best. But definitely, yeah, my point was like the skincare products, applying them does not mean it's the same thing as taking care of the skin.
yeah, for sure. But I also feel like nowadays I feel, especially for young girls, they start with like makeup super early in like their younger years. And obviously I feel like we can agree that makeup, like not good makeup, like those toxic kind of makeups, can affect your skin health and the barrier. So obviously I feel like as they get older and they reach like their teenage years, like they, you know, go into college, and, you know, as they get older, like they realize, oh, I've kind of potentially like ruined that barrier, ruined my skin a little bit. And now I'm like desperate for these products. So I feel like there's just so much stuff that we don't realize that we're doing as we're like growing up, that's damaging the skin, and then we kind of fall victim to like the marketing of these products. Oh, that this can like reverse your aging, and this can like bring up this, and I'm just like sometimes you just don't know. Like people obviously fall victim to it because it's like good marketing, and like you feel like they make it seem like you really need it.
And this is the disease of today. Like we have this fear of missing out, and we want to try all these products that promise all these amazing benefits. But I think for forgetting that the skin has you know, evolved these amazing mechanisms to maintain itself over millennia, it's kind of like being left ignored. And once we start to appreciate that, we become kind of less impressed with all these different skincare ingredients and start to understand which one our skin needs, if it needs something. But also when you mention makeup, I think it's another trap that easily creates a vicious cycle, because the more acne you have, the more you're trying to cover them up. And so you easily turn to these kind of like heavy long wear foundations that really sit very tightly on the skin and can cause so much occlusion and actually even more acne. For some people, easy test can be, for example, if you notice that your skin gets drier or even oilier with the foundation, with the makeup that you have, than without it, this is a you know, indicator of a problem, that this product is not working for you. It means is in some way irritating your skin. So people will actually be surprised that, okay, I have oily skin, but actually it doesn't get nearly as oily as when I use a mattifying foundation. It's like mind-blowing, right? But it's it's so over drying that the skin starts to overproduce oil in order to protect itself, to put some kind of barrier between itself and that drying effect. And so excess sebum will again drive more acne. So especially when the antioxidant levels in the skin are low. So for example, vitamin E is the main antioxidant, is being secreted together with the sebum. And when we are low, as we know, acne sufferers often are, especially those with oily skin, because you produce so much like oil that you cannot possibly have enough antioxidants to kind of prevent it from oxidizing. This is where the problems really start to to roll. So yeah, makeup is very tricky. I know.
Yeah, definitely. So let's like touch on some of these natural ways that we can treat acne, or I guess we can touch on PCOS acne. So obviously in the case of PCOS, and I guess in general, like the biggest recommendation by doctors is like accutane, and also with PCOS, often prescribed the birth control pill to balance your hormones.
One of the biggest lies told today.
Really is. So I guess let's like touch on how accutane kind of works. It's not like a natural treatment, but I want to touch on these so people can understand how it works, and then we can move on to these natural ways that you recommend to help with that, with acne.
Yeah. So I think, obviously accutane is a very strong medication, and I'm not 100% against it for people who are really in no position to maybe go to a more natural holistic route. They either can afford it, or they're not in a mental space to tolerate the process for however long it may take. Some people are just really under so much stress with their life that they cannot also think about their skin. And in some cases, it can just be fine to go on accutane, even with all the potential side effects you might get, because it's actually the only acne treatment that often does not, but can give you lasting results. If you in the process also work on the internal issues that you might have, hormonal imbalances and so on, because the birth control pills that you mentioned, antibiotics, all these different treatments will almost always just work for a short period of time, and the acne will come back even worse than it did before. Accutane works basically by killing some of the sebaceous cells, so like the cells in those little glands that produce sebum. So you end up with less sebum production, and this can be a very long-lasting change. So for people who go on accutane for like 2, 3, even 4 rounds, I even had clients who have been like for 4 rounds on accutane. Sometimes they can end up with such dry skin that it's almost impossible to moisturize it with any topically applied products, because the sebum production has been so disrupted and like so minimized by accutane. But basically this is how it works. So I would say it works the best for people who are already have pretty oily skin. Really the acne is very cystic, very stubborn, and it stems from that excessive oiliness, which again, it can be very frequently case with PCOS, but not every women with PCOS will have like super oily skin. So I would say if you are struggling with kind of drier skin that's already very sensitive, accutane may not do you any good. But yeah, definitely I would say I know that it's a very popular treatment with dermatologists, and they recommend it for even like very mild cases of acne. I definitely would explore other avenues first. Again, I'm of the opinion that there is always a way, but again, the person needs also certain investment of their time and money and energy and kind of like mental space. So yeah, this is kind of like, I'm always kind of trying to be black and white, because there's always some kind of nuance there.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of these, what should people be focusing on like naturally to help with the acne?
Yeah, so I always start first with evaluating the current skin condition and the skin history. So like everything your skin has been through also indicates the state and can help me understand the state in which the skin is currently in. So for somebody who hasn't used much skincare, it can actually be a good idea to go for a bit more aggressive treatments and to go for a bit stronger cleanser that can help to kind of break up that sebum. Let's say salicylic acid cleanser can be fine. But for somebody, on the other hand, whose skin has already been dried out by different treatments, minimizing the routine and simplifying, going for very gentle products that are not specially designed for acne, because those are usually very strong, can actually bring about acne healing much faster than by kind of like overbuying and overusing these different acne treatments. So for example, also there are certain, maybe natural ingredients we can use. Let's say topical green tea extract has also been shown to be very, very helpful in both oiliness, kind of like acne severity. So I think it's something that may really resonate with for somebody with PCOS, as those issues are often present. So you can either, I actually have in my free course DIY toner recipe with some green tea extract that you can kind of like add in a hydrating toner, or you can choose products with green tea extract. There are also different remedies that one can do. They're not like super aggressive or super powerful, but can help to just calm the skin down. And for somebody, this can make a massive difference. Again, it really depends where you are in your journey, how your skin is feeling at the moment. Another, thing that I find to be very anti-inflammatory, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it will kind of cause a reaction, but that will be raw or manuka honey. For people who respond well to it, they can really find great anti-inflammatory benefits from like having like a mask on a few times per week or so.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of that like honey mask kind of thing, and I'm just like, it's super interesting. Like, you're like, do I want to stick all that stuff on my face? But I mean, it's like natural.
It sounds very scary, but it's actually water soluble, so it washes very easily with water. Like, you're not gonna be sticky for days.
Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think very useful for people. But like you said, it's definitely all depends. The treatment you take depends on where your skin currently is. It's always looking at where the client is in this moment in time before, jumping in and doing various things, because it could just end up making things worse.
And this is super, super important. And it's something that is not evaluated. Like you don't start from there when you are getting advice from different skincare influencers, because their skin is at a different place than yours is. And so this can really, really damage skin for a lot of people and just bring about more problems and more issues, sadly. Yeah,
for sure, I definitely agree. So on the topic of acne, if acne begins to heal, there's always the like healing of those acne kind of scars. Is there a particular way that people can like remove acne scars, or is it just like they're going to be like there forever?
This is a really, really good and very common question. So we have a few different types of acne scars. Firstly, it is most important to stop actively breaking out, because when you are continuously getting new acne, working on acne scars at the same time is almost pointless, because you're just getting more and more scars as they come. So it's much more important that if you're at that stage while you're still actively breaking out, to just focus on these active breakouts and try to calm them down, and not overuse products, or even use a little bit products that are specifically designed for acne scars. Because when the skin is still in this like raw inflamed state, a lot of things can irritate the skin. And I often find that we need to separate these two actions. So like treating active acne, inflamed acne, and then when that acne has subsided, we can move on to step 2, and that is treating any leftover scarring. So there are many different products, including vitamin C serums, that can be super helpful once just the scars are left, but irritating and triggering and even causing more acne when there is still lots of inflamed acne present. All that said, we have a few different types of acne. So first, we have this post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which is these kind of like brownish acne scars, which is basically kind of like accumulation of that melanin in small localized places where the wound was, where the acne was. And those kind of superficial, scars, I wouldn't even call it scars, it's just kind of a bit hyperpigmentation after, have had wounds somewhere, they will go away on their own. Like usually they don't need any special treatment. They will go away with time, especially if you support your skin nutritionally from the inside. You provide all the good building blocks to fully repair the skin barrier, which, is mostly, I think people need to really ensure that they're getting quality protein and healthy fats. These are really important building blocks. Along with obviously vitamins and minerals that are needed for different enzyme function and so on, vitamin C, but this is enough for like most people. Like you don't need any special treatment. When it comes to post-inflammatory erythema, which is kind of like this redness, these reddish scars, they do take quite longer to go away, and for some people can really linger for too long, and sometimes at that point it can be fine to even like do a professional treatment if the active acne is completely gone. For some people, some niacinamide topically can help, but generally it's these like kind of like tiny broken capillaries underneath the skin, and it just takes a while for the skin to get rid of them. And again, sometimes certain professional treatments like certain different lasers can be necessary depending on the severity of these red scars. If you have these, like you know what they are, and they oftentimes also come in people who are prone to atrophic scarring, so these kind of like indented acne scars. And I would say these are the type of scars that I would treat actively as soon as the active acne has gone. And here, vitamin C serums, microneedling can usually be most helpful. Gentle, regular exfoliation for people who can tolerate can be very helpful. Certain retinoids have also been shown to kind of minimize the indentation of the scarring, like the adapalene, which is popularly known as Differin. It's a bit strong retinoid, so I would just not give it to everybody, but sometimes it can be the right choice, even though it's a bit on the mainstream. It's not a natural product. But like when you have acne scars, like you only care that like they're minimized, right? So all these can be kind of like tips to manage the scarring. But I do see oftentimes maybe most panic about acne scarring in people who just have these hyperpigmentation superficial scars, and like don't worry, they will go away. Just take care of your skin health. Yeah,
that's super interesting. I didn't know that there's different kind of scarring. Like I find just super like great, and I feel like the tips were really super helpful. So let's move on to some of these popular skincare tips or myths that people don't realize can probably be making your skin worse. Because I'm sure like there's like a lot of things we see online, we're like, oh, wash your face 3 times a day, or like put this on it. And like, what are some of these that you come across that some of us would be like, oh, I didn't know that was like a myth, or that doesn't help?
Yeah. I actually, when you sent me this question, I actually thought about like what kind of myth would I say here, and I think the one I would not even call it a myth, but like the one thing that people may be surprised over, and that I often see as a cause or something that aggravates adult acne, is this thought that professional skincare is better. Period. So these will be products like this Zeo Scalp, or like Dr. Dennis Gross, like all these kind of like stronger products. And the fact that they're stronger means that you can potentially get results really fast, but this comes at the expense of damaging your skin barrier. And after a while, your skin is not able to repair itself quickly enough anymore in between your morning and evening skincare routine, let's say, and the skin just starts to get more and more inflamed, and people get so confused, like, why is this happening to me? Like, this is supposed to be the best skincare out there, like this is supposed to be the best possible skincare. Because oftentimes when I get clients who have come from dermatologists or like certain skin specialists, they are trying to get them on this professional skincare, which I know sounds like it's the best thing to do. But if your skin is already sensitive or sensitized after all that your skin has been through, this can be a disaster for your skin. Like this can be a disaster for your skin. And this connects to the other myth that I also often see is that you just have to go through this purging, this like terrible purging period when you start a new skincare routine. And this is actually oftentimes just breaking out, just flat out breaking out, because your skin is so inflamed, and then you get with even more treatments that, yes, can have certain benefits, but your skin barrier needs to be healthy. If it's not, if it's already inflamed, it can just aggravate the situation more and more. You're gonna continue breaking out until at some point you realize, wait a minute, I should have stopped purging, but I'm still breaking out. So basically you're just breaking out. And this is something that these two things I see very, very often. So these kind of purging reactions can also come from, just regular moisturizers, or like something that is like clogging the skin. So in that case, it could never have been purging, only breaking out, because purging is kind of caused by ingredients that speed up cellular turnover. And so it makes sense that, some exfoliating product or a retinol can cause a very temporary purging, a slight, basically where you had these comedones, they become whiteheads, or just kind of like slightly pulling things to the surface. But people expect, or like think, or are convinced that this like really massive, like inflamed situation with lots of active acne is normal when you're starting your skincare routine. Like it's not necessary. And it can be very, very difficult to just go back to where the things have been. Like sometimes I will get clients that will say like, I actually now realize my skin was never this bad before. I just wish, how can we go back to where it was, where I just had like a few breakouts? This is where I started. And my heart just breaks, because like they know, and I know that they have brought this upon themselves, which is like, it makes it even all the worse, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like the way that you describe it, of like how when your skin barrier is pretty much, I don't know what the word is, like broken, damaged, I don't know, like what the best word to describe it is, but like when you're adding all this extra stuff on it, it's like you're adding more like gasoline to the fire of like, it's already like really inflamed, and you're just like pouring more like stuff on it, it's just like you're creating even more of a fire. So it's just like it's just like, just makes me think like, oh, we need to kind of take a step back and stop adding more things to create like more of an issue. But I completely agree. Whenever you go to like even for the case of like just going to PCOS for PCOS support, and you go to like your, I don't know, endocrinologist or gynecologist, they just give you like pretty much like the worst advice, which is like, on the birth control pill, lose weight, cut carbs. It's just like you end up pretty much going back in a worse situation than you were when you went to them. Like you're probably more insulin resistant, you've gained even more weight, your like hormones are even more out of whack. It's just like sometimes, like obviously doctors try and do the best they can, and like they try and in some cases it's like they just have to try and sell a product, so they kind of like push something. But what are you going to do? Everything's a business nowadays.
Yeah, no, I really wonder about this sometimes, because obviously there are people out there who are doctors or dermatologists who really give out very good advice and who have a deep understanding of the issue. But all too often, I really do get clients who have gotten terrible advice from their dermatologists, who have just urged them to, as you said, like put gasoline on the fire. So like the previous gasoline was not enough, so we need to solve the problem by putting even more. And it's really perplexing to me that they are not aware, that they haven't educated their patient about the skin barrier. Again, going back to that skin as an organ fact, which is a fact. Skin barrier is a fact. It's nothing novel. We have known about it for many decades. And it's really perplexing that we are treating the skin as if it's like an unbreakable machine. Like it's not, right? Like we have to remember all the processes that we are disrupting when we start to apply all these different things. And in successful treatment of acne, especially adult acne, where the skin already is more sensitive than teenage skin, we always have to be careful in balancing that anti-acne action of the topical treatment and restoring the skin barrier. So there has to be a balance, and this balance can look a bit differently for different people, but there always has to be a balance, right? And so if you have crossed over the threshold of what you can tolerate, you will generally see more sensitive skin, more redness, more breakouts, reacting to products. Like basically your skin is just angry whatever you do. This is like a red flag that you're already.
Yeah, that is so true. I want to touch on another point with breakouts, and it's something that a lot of people often wonder, and it's like the link between food and breakouts. So obviously there's a lot of research that says dairy can cause acne and breakouts, or carbs and like carbs that have high glycemic index. What have you found from like your research or working with clients with their skin, or for yourself? Is there a link between food and breakouts or the production of cause of acne, or is that just like, is it personal, or is it just like a myth?
It's not a myth. I think whoever says that there is no connection between the food you eat and how your skin looks, and whether you're getting breakouts, is absolutely misleading. Like it's not true. There's most definitely a link. I think that there are differences in how people imagine this link is and how it exists. So like people will think, okay, people who have otherwise perfectly healthy skin can eat, let's say, a bag of chips, and then, oh, but they don't get breakouts the next day. Like it's not how it works, right? Like if you are already prone to acne, let's say genetically, and then you have a certain kind of like room to move, which, if we are going technical terms, is called epigenetics. So like we can impact how our genes behave with our diet and lifestyle. So you're not just your genes, you're also what you do, what you eat, how you sleep, how you behave, like your life, how much sunlight you get, like all these things. So definitely there is absolutely a connection. How quickly it will appear, this connection between the food that you eat and your skin, I mean, sometimes, it can take years for the gut to come to the place where it's really unhappy, and then you will start to break out. For people who have already been prone to acne since, they were 13, they might require much smaller triggers to actually observe breakouts if they eat, certain things that are inflammatory. The most problems I see are with vegetable oils, or like the correct term is industrial seed oils. Like there are no vegetables in these oils. So they're very inflammatory, and as I said, like acne is already an inflammatory condition, and acne patients do tend to have lower antioxidant status, which is something that will get depleted when you are eating lots of pro-inflammatory foods. So there is most definitely a link there, and I think the longer one stays in denial of that link, like the longer really it takes to get clear skin. I think nobody has to live perfectly. Nobody, like, it's not realistic that somebody eats perfectly, but it has to be within reason. Like the skin will reflect your nutritional status, how well you sleep, how much sunlight hits your skin, and just sometimes I will actually asked by people like, okay, like, so you are saying that just by fixing someone's diet you can get clear skin, and I'm just like, that's not the entire picture. So I would say the farther you are from how humans lived throughout the evolution, the farther you are from that, the harder, or like the more steps you have to balance your hormones and get clear skin. So let's say if you eat a perfect diet, but you are living a sedentary lifestyle, you never see sunlight, you're just looking at the screen all day, you have poor sleep, all these different bad habits that are basically kind of sickness of a modern man, it can be enough for you to really have no progress in getting clear skin. For somebody who's, let's say, doing all the things right, but it is under immense stress, it can be very difficult as well. So again, all of these factors need to come together.
Yeah, for sure. Like generally, diet, nutrition will play a huge role in health, overall health. But again, we have to look at other stresses within our life, because not sleeping is a stressor, not getting enough sunlight is a stressor, just being on your phone all day or the screen sitting down is a stress on the body. It's just, we have to, you know, delve in, zoom into like your whole life and just like, look, all right, okay, your diet's good, but like, are all these other things good? But yeah, it all comes down, there's a lot of factors, and I think just focusing on diet sometimes is good. I feel like that is a big step that you have to address, because our body needs like vitamins and minerals to function, to like make hormones and all this kind of stuff, and to like get into a like non-stress state. And then looking at all these other stuff like sleep and exercise and you know, the environmental polluters that you were mentioning. It's just like so much. And like
I know it can be overwhelming to people. Yes, I know it can be overwhelming, but I think just taking one step at a time, and just trying, but all of these things will also help improve your health immensely in many other ways. So I think skin is basically just one kind of like glaring symptom that is very, you know, first to notice and obvious. But I have seen clients who have had to have or make life-changing decisions for their health to fall into place, and then also their skin cleared up. So it's not always easy, but our body does not care. Like, you know, if you you know, have to do certain things, or you are, you know, on a certain career path, like your body needs what it needs, and it's determined by millions of years of evolution. So it's where we're kind of like locked in.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, obviously all this stuff can take like years to develop, and we always like, we're such a desperate like race that we just kind of want things to like get cleared up from like one day to the next. And it's just like, if it took all these years for like hormones to get out of whack, or your skin to start realizing that, you know, to start showing breakouts and acne, it's going to take a couple of years for your body to be like, okay, it's like a safe environment, like this, you know, it's taking care of itself, is not being, you know, disrupted and all this kind of stuff. But yeah,
It takes a while to undo everything that has happened. Yeah, absolutely right.
Well, touching on like skin, like pollution and all this kind of stuff in our environment that we don't really have much control over, what are some of these habits that people can do to protect it from those stuff that we can't actually control?
You mean maybe looking at the screens or being inside, or like what
like
do you...
if like going outside, there's like so much like dirt and like just stuff that was also going to come onto our skin. What should people do to protect it from that stuff from outside damaging the skin, if that makes sense?
Okay, so you mean basically pollution, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It does not make really big difference whether you're then inside or outside. I think the inside air can actually be even more polluted than the outside air, which is oftentimes the case. So I don't think there is much you can do about the air. Obviously, you can use antioxidants in your skincare, in your morning routine. So let's say a combination of vitamin C, vitamin E, and ferulic acid is a really nice one. Again, it kind of depends on who can tolerate these formulations, as they can also be a bit strong, but the antioxidants will help protect your skin from some of that oxidative damage. You know, move to the woods. There's no, just kidding. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult. So I will sometimes get asked, like, if people, you know, move places, or if they have a certain habit or hobby that kind of exposes their skin to something that the skin doesn't like. For example, if somebody likes to swim in a chlorine, you know, treated a pool for a few hours every day, and then like, how can I have moisturized skin as I did before? And it's like, maybe you can't. Like, maybe this is the trigger that like no you know, outside product can really replace. Like, sometimes you really have to cut out the trigger that is, you know, bothering your skin. Sometimes there is no band-aid that can help you alleviate that. So like, somebody who lives in a highly polluted area, you can use these antioxidants, you can, you know, do these steps. A green tea extract, again, can be helpful, but is it going to be the same as if that person lives somewhere where there is no pollution? Like, probably not. So like, it has to be within I think reasonable expectations as well. Yeah,
makes sense. So I have like one kind of thing touching on like skincare routines of like firstly, like, is there, obviously we talk about morning routines and like evening routines like before bed. So is this something people should start to implement? Because like from personal experience, I'm not really one for like, I've never done like, I'm getting into it now, but like of like waking up in the morning and doing a whole morning routine for your skin, and then before you go to bed, like doing another like routine for your skin. Like, is this something people should look into? Is it necessary or?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question. I know that the skin influencers all around the world who are here, this will turn on me. But I don't think that we should be excessively, again, fixing the problem where there is no problem. So ideally, for somebody who has no acne, you wake up with, nice supple skin. There's no extra oiliness. There's no problem, in sight. Leaving your skin and not doing anything, so like no cleansing, no touching, is actually will make your skin barrier the happiest because you are not washing off any components of that skin barrier as you cleanse. So you're not cleansing off any ceramides, cholesterol, fatty acids from the skin, which are these important components of the skin barrier. You are basically allowing the skin to have full protection against the environmental stressors and to lose the least amount of water through the skin throughout the day. Because as you cleanse with some kind of like a harsher cleanser in the morning, your skin is automatically more vulnerable to these external stressors. So like going back to your pollution question would be to evaluate how much cleansing you actually need in the morning. It can depend a little bit on what you use the night before and like your, the rest of your routine. But for the morning, I like to just focus on protecting the skin. So for a lot of people, this will mean minimal to no cleanse. Maybe an antioxidant serum if you can tolerate it, SPF for people, again, if tolerated, these kinds of things. But should everybody cleanse and moisturize morning and evening? Like, no. Like, I mean, I think these kind of like blanket statements really, really irritate me sometimes because I do hear them often. And then for the evening routine, since most of us do wear some kind of makeup, you are living in a bit polluted area, or you wear SPF and you maybe sweat, or you live in a humid environment and your skin kind of gets all, sweaty and sticky. It is a good idea to have a cleanse, maybe even double cleanse, to first gently remove makeup, then to wash off any residue, and then you apply whatever products fit into your routine. I think this is kind of like a good idea for most people. I don't think I've even heard some like estheticians or like people in this area with online presence are like how are you even taking care of your skin if you're not cleansing in the morning, or like if you're not, it's like, it's really not so simple. Like there has to be, I think, more nuance and more awareness of the skin barrier. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Always set in the center. Yeah.
That's good to hear, because I remember like growing up and like till now, like you always see these articles and people are like, oh, I've got this morning routine. I've got all these 5 products that I put on my skin in the night before I go to bed. I put these 5 products. It's like, do you really need to do that?
No, it's actually a really bad idea for a lot of people, because people will focus so much on what the front label of the product says. We know all the beneficial ingredients and stuff, but we forget that all of these products can come with their own, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and preservatives, which negatively affect the skin microbiome. Again, the host of different bacterial species, the mites, the fungi that live happily on our skin in balance, and these substances can actually disrupt this balance. And so if you're layering 5, 6 of such products morning and evening, you actually may be getting more breakouts just due to layering of these products all the time. So I would say it's quite a bad idea for a lot of people, especially for somebody prone to acne, to layer so many products. And I know that it sounds so appealing, like I understand the appeal, but I think we oftentimes leave out of the equation the fact that there are these stabilizers and preservatives and the substances that are needed to make the formulation but they are not in any way beneficial to the skin. They need to be there to stabilize the product, but like they're not helpful to your skin. So it's kind of like a trade-off that we do there. So you're going to use a product that delivers you more benefits than there are downsides. But like when you start layer like the 10 steps routines and like all these things, I think it can get really bad really quickly for a lot of people prone to acne. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like you touched on, there's a lot of these like ingredients within these products. Do you think, off the top of your head, if you can, like what kind of ingredients or chemicals, let's say, people should be looking out for? Like if they look to their like this popular brand and they like turn the packet or the bottle and they say, oh, it's got X ingredient, like X ingredient. Like what should they be avoiding?
This is a really good question. And I think a few ingredients that I generally always steer clear of because there is absolutely zero benefit in them. Usually it's just irritation. So like first is the fragrance, especially artificial fragrance, but also some essential oils. And this is the perplexing thing because some of the very expensive skincare, so I understand the need for fragrance from marketing perspective because a lot of people like their product to smell good and they will kind of, always lean towards those products, even though the fragrance basically just irritates the skin. Like it's not going to do anything beneficial for the skin. So I would definitely advise avoiding fragrance. As I said, like this also actually can include natural fragrance for people who already have sensitive skin. And those would mainly be kind of like peppermint essential oils, eucalyptus, menthol, citrusy essential oils. These kinds of things can actually be very irritating for the skin, especially over the long term. And you're not gonna, again, notice this immediately on your skin. It's just like your skin is just kind of like getting gradually more and more like breaking out or inflamed, and you're not sure like why. Go back to these products. Another thing that I really avoid and really see no actual benefit, even though these products can work really quickly, but those would be products with simple drying alcohols, which will usually be at the top of the ingredient list, named alcohol or alcohol denat, or acetate alcohol, benzyl alcohol. So this does not include moisturizing alcohols, such as cetyl or cetyl alcohol, but these kind of like simple alcohols, which are there with the purpose to disrupt the skin barrier so that other products, ingredients can penetrate better into the deeper layers of the skin. So you are disrupting the skin barrier on purpose. Again, if the delivery of these other ingredients, such as certain exfoliating acids, can then work better, sometimes, for people with really resilient skin, this can work great. Like they can clear up the acne really quickly for a period of time, and then they will start breaking out again, and they will think, okay, my skin got used to this product. Like, why is it not working anymore? And this is because your skin barrier is now tired. So if you're using such a product and it's currently working for you, I recommend swapping it with something similar without the fragrance and those drying alcohols. If you should still require such a product, swap it with something gentler. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm glad you touched on that because I feel like it's something people kind of need to know, because it's just like reading food labels. You kind of want to read the ingredients of any kind of thing that like whether you're eating it or drinking it or putting it on your skin. Like I feel like we need to know what we're putting on our skin.
Exactly.
And I had like another kind of point that kind of follows on from like the whole morning and bedtime routine. The whole kind of routine thing is, do we need to change? Do we need, based on the seasons? Sometimes in summer it's more hot, and like in winter, like all these kind of seasons, do we have to think about changing what we do for our skin, or is that just like overthinking things?
No, it's not overthinking. I think actually it's if you get into a practice of like observing your skin, meaning that you try to observe what your skin currently needs, it will be quite easy to see how your skin, how the changes of your skin how the needs of your skin change with the seasons. And for some people who live in the climate where there's a kind of like a switch between high to low humidity, they may notice just by observing a little bit that in the high humidity period they might not need moisturizer, or they need very little, or they don't need their hydrating products and so on. Maybe they need a bit more cleansing because the skin gets like really sweaty and sticky. Whereas in the low humidity period, they may do better with like not cleansing so much, especially in the morning, maybe with like a richer moisturizer, these kinds of things. So I think these kinds of changes are very good and welcome, and it's really just you tuning into what your skin needs for this season. I think that it can also actually be helpful for women, again, coming back to the PCOS, to even adjust based on where you are in your cycle. If you're not on, hormonal birth control, if you are running on your natural hormones, as you get your period, like in this first week, usually your skin can tolerate a bit more, whereas it starts to clog up. When I say like tolerate a bit more, like you may get away with maybe, like your skin may not go crazy if you extract a pimple, or if you do a bit stronger treatment for acne, like your skin may not get so crazy. Whereas week before the period, where the inflammation is on the high and you're getting more breakouts, like you may need to have something more soothing. So again, really observe your skin and like what works the best. But definitely, I think it's a good practice to constantly, not to be obsessed about it, but like to tune in and to see what your skin needs that day, rather than have like a really rigid routine that never changes no matter where you are, like no matter the circumstances.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Yeah. Final kind of wrap up question. Who for our listeners or people who are starting to, make the changes. Obviously, we don't have like a timeline on how long it's going to take to see improvement, but like, what are some of these known signs that people can look out for as like an indication that what they are doing internally and like topically they are seeing improvements in their skin?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So I'm just going to focus on the skin and the signs that their skin is showing. So first, I like to see improvement in how the skin feels and how it's naturally moisturized, which are all positive signs when it comes to skin barrier repair. So your skin just feels, calmer, more comfortable, less inflamed, more naturally moisturized, maybe even look a bit more dewy. Even if you are breaking out just as much as before, like your skin just feels healthier. Like this is usually the first thing that people observe, and sometimes like in a matter of a week or two, if we, let's say, stop a really really harsh products that were too drying, then after that I think you will probably continue to break out, especially if you have a lot of comedones, like lots of congestion. So like the main way we get to the point of clear skin is by preventing new clogged pores from happening. So like there's rarely a magical product that will eliminate the existing congestion. But as you start preventing, you will see that you are breaking out a bit less frequently, and that you're also getting fewer and fewer of these comedones, skin color bumps. So like, again, those that are already exist on your skin may take their time going away. Some of them will dry out and just, leave on their own, and some will get inflamed and go away in that way. But the more, I would say, stable your skin is, so like the less congestion you're getting, week by week, this takes you closer to clear skin after a while. People usually imagine that both inflamed acne and comedones and all kinds of acne scarring will just start to decline visibly in kind of like a straight line, but the progress is not so linear. So it's really, I think, focus on always making sure your skin is healthy, and on, gentle prevention, maybe treatment of inflamed acne to stop the inflammation from spreading so much. A simple spot treatment can help here, but also just, addressing internal triggers is basically the number one thing. But yeah, those will kind of like be how I see my clients progress through these stages. So in the end, a lot of them will be like, I just have like a few comedones or like a bit texture on my chin, and like that's the final stage. And then we get rid of that, and that's it. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think, like you say, it's always like doing things that can prevent the things from escalating even more. So it's always like prevention sometimes. But yeah, that's super interesting. Thank you again for like sharing all this awesome stuff. How can our listeners connect with you? Where can they find you, and how can they work with you?
Thank you so much for having me. It was super fun. So I'm Healthy Skin Glows on Instagram. My website is healthyskin-glows.com. And right now it's actually under construction because I will have my updated course and like all kind of like work with me options updated, will be ready next week. Probably, this will be maybe published later than that. But they can find me at those places. Send me an email anytime from my website, or you can get my free resources on my website. Again, it's healthyskin-glows.com, and the same handle is for Instagram, Healthy Skin Glows. So this is usually where I connect with people the most.
Yeah, I have everything linked in the show notes, but definitely go ahead and follow. Check out the blog as well. You've got such great in-depth articles, and that just so knowledgeable about skin.
Thank you so much.
It's so great. I'll have everything in the show notes. Highly recommend. And once you I think the episode will go up in the next few weeks, so I'm sure the website will be ready. Your course will all be like done, and everything will be sorted. I'll have everything that linked as well, so definitely check it out. But thank you again for taking time over there. I know you're like super busy. I appreciate you spending time with me talking about skin. I've learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners have learned tons, and it's been super valuable. Thank you so much once again.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for having me.